Welcome to the Barbell Strikes Back. I'm James McDermott, joined by Miguel Porter. Miguel, it's Super Bowl Sunday. Are you excited?
Yeah, I don't know. The Super Bowl is always a weird time for me. I
Is it?
think I think like it's kind of similar with like Thanksgiving, having years of like working a day like today at a pizza shop. So, you
Oh
know,
gosh.
being extremely busy for like a few years in a row has always like changed the Super Bowl for me. So now I'm like I barely even want to engage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like when I used to work in retail, it and so did you, it kind of ruins the holidays a little bit for you.
Yeah,
Especially when you see the other side of society and the way people act and how busy you are and you don't really get to enjoy it like other people do. I don't miss those days, but I miss the excitement of those days,
right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of fills the day. You're like into something, and then when you're done with that, it kind of feels like something's missing. Like my friend, he and his brother own a pizza shop in Waterville, and even like around this time, they're like, we've been doing it for years, and they've been doing it even longer than me. So they're like well prepared now, and they like know how many people they need. But like every now and then, I'm like, if you need anybody, like because yeah, it's like one, it's a good amount of money, because
Yeah,
they
I bet.
bring in like extra drivers and all that, and most of the orders are like placed beforehand anyway. So yeah, it's a good day to get like some extra cash if you're not going to be doing anything.
That would be cool to like you just get the call. Hey, we're assembling the team. Someone dropped out. Miguel, I know it's been 5 years, but nothing's really changed. Can you come and help us out? And you're like, you know what? I'm going to go in for the thrill of it instead of
Yeah,
like the daily grind. And the thing is, you don't have to show back up tomorrow.
right.
That's what always used to suck is working these big dates, and then it's like maybe you're clopening, so you're going to close on the Super Bowl and then open Monday morning,
Right.
and like, well, that sucks too. I used to do that all the time,
Yeah.
so that would be cool to get the call. Uh, do you put out the feelers? You're like, hey, just remember, I'm here, just
Yeah.
in case.
No, I always check, but they've got more than enough people for sure. They're definitely stacked over there, so that's good.
Yeah, yeah. I always end up every Super Bowl now because I don't have TV, doing the whole free trial thing. Like once I actually decide, all right, I want to have it on, in some ways, and you try to find the free stream on YouTube or the free Facebook live stream, but they always get cut off and it's not the same. So I accidentally forgot to cancel the auto renew for YouTube TV for watching the Australian Open. It's just like Shop was right. You got to cancel it right away, but
Yeah.
I didn't, so I got charged another month for it. But it actually works out because now I just have it for the Super Bowl,
Right.
and I canceled it already after the Australian Open. But it's like, all right, this is something I would have wanted to watch anyways. I would have done tonight, right as they were about to start it. I would have been going to like all the apps to
Yeah.
see what ones I've done the trial on. So it's like I don't have to deal with that tonight. I can just put it on and watch it, and I think that'll be nice.
Yeah. This is like the one time of year where I'm like, oh yeah, having the cable is good. Like
Yeah,
I do put on football typically just on a regular Sunday. Um, but a day like today where it's like I actually want to see different pieces of it because I know that the game itself will probably annoy me by the third quarter and I'll want to shut it off anyway. So like as long as I get like decent commercials, good halftime show, that'll be worth it.
yeah, yeah. I don't even who's doing the halftime show.
It's Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, okay, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
all right, cool. Yeah, I didn't even see. I had no idea what's happening other than it's the Chiefs versus the Eagles, and this might be the three-peat for the Chiefs 3 times in a row. I'm
yeah.
sure someone's done it in history, right? Never been done.
I
Okay,
don't think at a Super Bowl now.
wow. So you see, there's a lot of heat on the Chiefs. People aren't really happy with them. I feel like is that more so just the
No,
outside things like Taylor Swift and everything, and the Kelseys. So this is internal. This is
Yeah,
actual
no, I
football.
don't think I mean it's one of those things of like if you're winning continuously, people don't like that. It gets kind of boring, but also I do think from like a football fan, like I know the game of football, watch the game of football. I think a lot of people have an issue with the way that they win.
Which
I
is
mean, they have like their like conspiracies of like the refs always give them the good calls, which
I
it
heard that.
does
Yeah.
tend to be in their favor very often, but they're not like they were I think they only lost once or twice this year in the regular season.
Uh-huh.
And so it's like they have a great record. But even the games that they've won with like a score in the last 5 minutes of the game. Like they haven't been like
Dominant.
right, like they haven't shown like, oh, we're clearly the best team. It's like they just always find a way to win.
People just dropped the ball. I mean, no pun intended. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
team, the whoever was going to beat them, and then they just blew it.
yeah.
Huh?
I mean, like the New England Patriots Tom Brady era was similar sometimes. I mean, there were times where they were just completely dominant, and
Yeah,
but
and that's what
when
I
you're
remember.
when your team's ahead by two scores, and then the fourth quarter comes around, and then somehow your team gets beat by like a last second field goal or something like that. Like that's how the Chiefs have been like continuously winning this year, or like very low score games where they're like, yeah, we scored 16 points, and that's all we needed.
So is it kind of like in tennis, like one way to like really get like one of your friends like really mad and like start to blow it on their end is when you just go for like all of like the cheap wimpy shots like for multiple shots, like you don't feed back the energy, like they'll
Mm,
crush something back and you do a little slice, then they crush a forehand back and you do a little slice, or you soft return their serve, so like you're not feeding
right.
energy back in so that like it's action packed and they start to get frustrated, then they start to
Yeah,
make errors. Is it like cheapy winning like that?
I would say it's different in football. It's like so let's say you get four downs every offensive drive every time you're on offense, right? Four downs to make a first down. The Chiefs are a team that like the first two downs, it seems like they're not even going to get a yard.
Hmm.
And then third down is usually people's like last chance to get the 10 yards, or else on your fourth down you punt it. The Chiefs will like anything will happen. They might even lose yards. So it'll be like a 3rd and 15. And they'll just do like a little drop pass, like 2 yards out. And somehow every tackle gets missed. And then they get a new set of downs. Almost every time that's how it looks, where it's like, oh, the defense has been great stopping them all these first two downs. And then third down, where they need to get the first down, they'll just get it. A player will just be wide open somehow, and
Yeah.
it just happens every single time.
Hmm. Interesting. I don't follow football, but I see like the thing out there which I enjoy more than the actual football, which is the conspiracy theory of it's like the WWE and they've already figured out how
Yeah.
the season's going to go and who's going to win. And that's why people think the Chiefs are going to win this time, because it's all fake. It's all like, which that would have to be, I mean, I suppose you could do it, but the amount of people, it's like any conspiracy theory, the amount of people that you would have to hope don't blow it and like say, hey, Miguel, all right, you can't tell anybody, but I know the NFL's fake. Like the amount of people you would have to trust with that information to not blow it, and get it out there, which I don't know, maybe that's why the theory's out there now. But that's I kind of enjoy that more than the actual football. I'm like, yeah, all right. I'm watching the videos and I'm like, yeah, that does see why did that ref make that call? Oh, it's because Miguel's team was supposed to win
Yeah.
and they're making sure of it. So I don't know, maybe it's more of I guess you could do something like this if it's the ownership knows, the head coaches know, the referees know to an extent. And maybe it just stops there. Like maybe the players don't even know that they're playing a fixed game, and like I don't know.
I mean, it makes it easier. It makes you less mad when you see things happen if you go, oh, it's all fake.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. It's just the coping mechanism of like, I am so mad at the result of this game. There needs to be a reason why it happened.
Yeah, that's probably where it came from. People just not being able just to deal with their own team's win. That they're like, you know what? It has to all be rigged, and then it conflates into this. It's an organization wide deal. But what I'm just trying to think, like, all right, we know why the WWE is fake. All right, that's fine. Why would the NFL need to be fake? What would be the benefit of it? Like, what would does it's not going to make them more money, right? I don't think. Does it? Do they just not want certain teams to win? Like, all right, I don't know. I'm sure there's some teams that have never won a Super Bowl, but it's like I don't know what is the benefit of doing all that work instead of just letting the games just play out the way they play out.
I mean, yeah, the argument is the same as like WWE. Like everyone loves a storyline. If you can make these storylines and you see, I mean, it is kind of like outside stuff too, right? Like if you wanted to make the argument of like the Taylor Swift of it all, does the NFL get more fans because they know Taylor Swift is at a game? People who've never watched football, will they now watch more football because they know Taylor Swift is going to be at the Super Bowl?
What if I'm not going to watch because no, I'm kidding.
I mean, yeah, right. There's that too, but it's like you have to weigh certain things. But it's like a diehard football fan isn't going to not watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But you can definitely get a Taylor Swift fan to now watch the Super Bowl because her boyfriend is playing in the Super Bowl.
Or like me, I don't watch football at all, but I want to watch the Super Bowl just because it's the big cultural thing going on right now. Just
Right.
like I don't watch boxing, but when Jake Paul was fighting Mike Tyson, I'm going to put it on because this is like the water cooler event right now. It's just the big thing, you know. Yeah. Do you think it would ruin everything if they came out to like, hey, football's fake, the NFL's fake. I mean, you're
Yes.
watching great athleticism, all this stuff, but we figure out the games in advance. Like it would ruin the sport. You think they would just tank it?
I mean, we talked about this a few weeks ago where it's like, I don't think you understand like these type of fans. Like this is deep. Like this is legitimately people's lives.
Oh yeah, people have killed each other like because of these things.
Genuinely. Yeah. So
that's what I don't understand.
That would never work. No.
Yeah. It would just be chaos.
Yeah. Because at that point, like, yeah, people spend way too much money. Way too much money. Because it's not even, dare I say, football is not even that entertaining sometimes. No. Sometimes you just go to see your team win. And if you don't, and it's like because some games end in like one team made 2 field goals, one team made 1, and you're there for hours and you spent hundreds of dollars on seats. Absolutely not. That would never work. At least WWE, you're like, it's entertaining no matter what.
Yeah, you know it's fake. They don't even hide it anymore. You know, they're allowed to use terms like heel and babyface now, which they never used to be able to. They're able to break kayfabe and like not be their character, you know, all the time. Versus like back in the day, it's like, oh no, that is the Undertaker. He's the only living zombie in the world that we all believe in, you know, or whatever. It's kind of funny with characters like that on how like everybody's like, no, he's this crazy guy, you know. Sergeant Slaughter literally did betray the United States, and he's a traitor. And but then he came back. It's like it's just funny what people were willing to believe, which kind of makes you think. It's like, well, people would be willing to believe and accept that the NFL was fake? It's kind of like eventually someday they'll come out and be like, hey, aliens are real. But then like the week before they announced that the NFL is fake, and people are like, we don't care about the aliens. We're still pissed
100%,
that the NFL is fake. It's funny. Sports. And the aliens don't understand why we're so into it. Well, I'm going to watch. I'm excited for it. For some reason, like, again, it's like the cultural impact of it. I'm like, you know what? I might order a pizza. I'm like, I don't, it's like, it's almost like this will remind me of like, yeah, it's not that good, but like, I feel like this is what I want to do today. I want to be like the typical American today, watch the NFL and eat pizza and do stuff like that.
Get those orders in quick.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
way
and the thing is,
beforehand.
like I know that like I can do that, and tomorrow will be right back to normal schedule.
Right.
Because we're already over a month just being back dialed in, and I know I have that power to just be like, no, no, no. This doesn't mean I order a pizza on Monday too, or I go elsewhere. I already have my food for the week and all that stuff. This is like I'm not even craving it. This is like I just want to do this, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. I don't. And normally when I do stuff like this, I'm reminded of like, all right, the pizza wasn't that great. It's not what I was remembering, and I'm okay with not having it for another 3 months until I need to remind myself again that it didn't taste that good to begin with.
Yeah.
Which I like pizza, but it's like when you get in your routine of your foods, and you're like, I look forward to eating my steak. That tastes good. Like your taste buds they change. So yeah, all right. Well, we'll see. We'll see if we get to three-peat. We'll see who's upset tomorrow about this. It doesn't bother me anyway. I think I'll just root for the Eagles. Just see. I don't even know. I mean, it would be cool if there was a three-peat, right?
I just think that Philadelphia is a cooler city. And sometimes that's enough for me
Yeah.
to want a team
Okay.
to win. It's just because I think that city would celebrate it in a way cooler way.
Uh-huh. Then Kansas City.
Yeah.
See, when I think of Philadelphia Eagles, the only two players I can tell you and where my mind is still at is Donovan McNabb and Michael Vick. I have no idea what's happening with the Philadelphia Eagles since then. So, and those guys, they're not around anymore. Donovan McNabb's a commentator now, right? Hall of Fame
I don't
commentator.
even know if he's commentating.
Oh, okay. And Michael Vick, I don't know what he's doing. Probably
He's
nothing.
there. He's
He's
there
there.
this weekend doing
Oh,
other stuff. Yeah.
oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's all I know about them. And I just know Taylor Swift and the Kelseys, and I guess Patrick Mahomes and his family that seem to annoy people. You know what? Let's go Philadelphia. now that I think
See,
about it.
but now you're getting into the thing of like, yeah, one team does seem more annoying, and then you root for the other team, and then the annoying team wins, and then you go, oh, now I'm mad.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe what I need to do for everybody is I need to root for the Chiefs, and I
Right.
need to like jinx them as a non-fan coming in and all that stuff. Yeah, because yeah. All right. Anyways, we just did some testing in Barbell Club this past week. We tested our strength exercises, back squat and front squat. Really, that's all we tested. We didn't bother to test push press and good morning and stuff like that. I didn't feel like it was necessary at this point. But it went well. For those of you that were in attendance, we had some front squat PRs. You set a new 3 rep max of 135 kilos, and that was a 10 kilo improvement. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it felt decent. It wasn't too bad. Definitely this week I've been beat up just with the snowboarding still. Um, so body's a bit beat up, but it just feels good to even like attempt maxes again in squatting because it feels like it's been so long for me specifically. Um, so yeah, no, it felt good.
I feel like this was like the first unified max out in a while where it wasn't just like one person getting a PR and everyone else is kind of just beat up, having a bad day, not eating food, things like that. Like it kind of felt like this week, like not everybody PR'd on the front squat, but a bunch of people did, and then not everybody PR'd on the back squat, but a bunch of people did. Like we had a nice mix again. Um, what do you think about the way that we approached those max outs? So we did them on a timer. So instead of just having free time on like, all right, you got 25 minutes to max out, which the issue with that is it always ends up being more than 25 minutes. Now we don't have time for other things because people take too long. And maybe some of you guys get 3 sets in. You go 70, 115, and 135, and then you're done. So you don't get the training in, which that doesn't warm you up properly to do what we need to do, even though it
Right.
feels productive. And I think sometimes people just rest too long in between attempts because you might think you need to, or you just get in a thing of you're talking to someone like your focus is different because like you're chatting or you're looking on your phone or something like that, and the next thing you know, all right, let me go try this max out, and then it doesn't go where it needs to go. So I feel like first keeping it on a timer had everybody dialed in, and it kind of put more, not emphasis, but like I guess focus is the word that I'm lacking a good word for, on just like attacking that set that you
Yeah.
were on. What do you feel about that?
Yeah. Obviously, I don't love more sets.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, the reality is that that is the truth. I think maybe the only thing is a change in time, right? Where maybe the first few sets we do on like a quicker timer because people like to bank time for later.
Yeah.
But, I think overall that's hard to do. And again, we can get into the whole nitty gritty of it and like that extra time of like, all right, now let's switch the clock over to like a 3 minute timer,
Yeah.
whatever.
And
And then
that
you
might
kind of,
switch your mindset too.
right. And you kind of lose time in those transitions as well. Um, I do think also it kind of stops you from getting, no, I won't call it that. The word that is in my mind right now is like a cheap kind of PR of like,
Mhm.
I'm going to go for that 1 kilo PR and then that's it. Once I
Why
get
is
it, I'm
everybody against the 1 kilo PR? What? Progress is progress.
I think the thing is a lot of us don't need to just get 1 kilo PRs, but I think when you give us like, all right, 20 minutes, go for it, a lot of us will then default to just getting that 1 kilo PR. And then
Mhm.
when you hit it, you're like, oh, I'm done. Because I've already been wasting enough time anyway. We're probably over time anyway because of the way I timed it. But if
Yeah.
you put in a PR at attempt 7 and attempt 8, then we will be more likely to get past it even more.
And that's what I did with you. Like for you on your front squat, I think your PR for 3 reps was 125, right?
I think you put in, no, it was,
Oh, I got it right here.
I think that was my 6th attempt, and then 132, I think would have been a PR
Uh,
because we had 132 and then 135.
yes. All right. So your PR was 125 for 3, and your set 6 was 130, then 135. So I had you go from 120 to 130.
Mm,
So just completely over your old PR. You hit 120 for your last, I guess, quote, warm up. And then your last two sets after that were PR attempts,
right.
130 and 135, which I don't know if we've ever taken that jump before on a front squat, a 120 to 130 type of deal.
Yeah. And I mean, even the last time that I really attempted like a 3 rep, it probably wasn't even in kilos. So I, again, really had no clue like
Yeah.
what each jump was. Um,
Yeah. Because 125 is 275 in pounds.
yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's what you did.
Yeah. So I probably would have just gone for like 128. And then
Yep.
if I hit that, maybe go for another attempt, but
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have done 135.
Yep. So I think it was good to just put those unknown numbers on there. Like
Yeah.
you don't even know what to expect, but then you do 1 rep and you're like, well, I have to try another rep. Then you get 2 reps and now you're like in the fight of it. You're like, of course I'm going to put effort in to rep 3. And that worked out well for you. So just taking pretty big jumps and giving you 2 PR attempts. For Haley, I took a different approach. Her PR was 100 for 3, and I just built her up to a 101. Like Haley seems more at peace with the let's go for a 1 kilo PR
Yep.
type of thing. It all depends on how you guys the work you want to do and the engine and the energy for the day and how you're feeling. Uh, Jennifer 90 was the PR, and we got 91. Jennifer is the master of the 1 kilo PR,
Hmm.
but we're typically working really high percentage up there. And that was it for the PRs we got. Shops 151 for 2 might have been a 2 rep max. I still have to verify that. So I thought it went well. We did straight sets of 3 on the front squat, but then I changed it for the back squat. Uh, so we did 8 sets of 3, which is our normal training volume too for the front squat. 5 warm up sets, 3 sets of 3. So it's like we're maxing it out, but we're also still getting our training stimulus and volume for the week on the front
Right.
squats. So it's like, okay, even if you do miss a set, we're still on track, right? It's not like we just really plummeted down the volume or anything like that. With the back squat, I did change it a little bit. Our first 2 warm up sets were sets of 5s. We only did 7 sets. And then we did a bunch of sets of 3, save a couple reps in the bank, and then most of you had just 1 attempt at a 5 rep max, maybe 2 for some. I think Tanzira had 2 mapped out. But the reason I was okay bumping down the volume for like 3 or 4 sets to 3 instead of 5 reps is because we just did 5 by 5 earlier in the week, or 3 by 5. So yeah, and I bumped that down too. We have been doing 5 by 5 on Mondays for back squat. I bumped that down to 3 by 5. So I was like, it's okay. We've already done a ton of squats. Like, it's not going to change anything. Most of you guys seem to like that. You want to stick to 5s though. How does it mess you up going from 5 to 3 and then back to 5 again?
Yeah, I think there's certain things that I feel like I need mentally in order to do certain things. Like, just even like when I don't know, I feel like I haven't done it as much recently, but like bouncing the bar on my back just to like feel it move, it lets me know like you can do this weight. Like, this weight is moving off of your shoulders. Like, you can do it. Expecting my heaviest set to get 5 reps. If the set before I also didn't do 5 reps, reps 4 and 5 are now, I'm not sure of them.
They're unknown.
Like, if I did the previous set for 5 and I know that I did it for 5, I can go, okay, you can do 5 again at this next weight.
Yeah.
If the set before or a couple before I only hit 3, then I in my mind I can only hit 3. And that's kind of what happened as well, is that, I mean, it wasn't a great day for me just squatting wise, like just how I was moving. I didn't really feel that I could get there. But yeah, hitting a point where I was starting to form wise kind of break down at rep 3 kind of threw me off, where I was like, okay, I don't think I'll be able to get to this 5, because if it's breaking down at 3, 4, I'm now like putting myself at risk, but I can probably get that 5. It might not even be worth it.
Yeah.
And then let's say I can only get 3, because I was going for 5s the entire time. So I think the last 2 sets I did, I only got 3 reps. Like, I hit 3 and I was like, that 3 was hard. I don't know if it makes sense to go for 4 and 5 right now. Then getting to the last set and going like, oh yeah, no, I wouldn't be able to hit it for 5. I don't even know if I could have hit it for 3, honestly. So yeah.
And that's going to happen. You know what you need to do. We had a small sample size on Friday. It was just you, Tanzira, Haley, and Jennifer. Everybody else did the 2 by 5 in the beginning, then sets of 3, and then finally went for 5 for their PR attempts, and that worked out well for them. Especially, I think that works out well for Haley and Jennifer,
Right.
in just having the energy or the strength at the end of the series. So that worked out really well for them. Jennifer set a new PR. Oh, I'm blanking on what it was. We got 108. No. Jennifer hit 108 for a new 1 rep max PR.
Yeah.
For the 5 rep max, do you remember what she hit? What was that? It was 103. 103. Yeah, that's what it was. Because I was going to have her go, her PR was 101, and I was going to have her go for 102, and then we decided to go to 103. All right, so Jennifer got a 5 rep max and a 1 rep max PR out of this whole thing.
Yeah.
The 1 rep max being a bonus set, so 8. So that's not bad in 8 squat sets. A 5 rep max and a a 1 rep max. Her old 1 rep max was 106. So 2 kilos on the 1 rep max and 1 kilo on the 5 rep max. That's a pretty darn good day. We could stop right there. We don't have to do anything else. Tanzira got a 2 kilo PR on her 5 rep max. 105 is what she got. And then Haley got like 17 different PRs because Haley was just on a tear. We did the 1 kilo PR on the 5 rep max. 116 is the new 5 rep max. And then she went for a bunch of 1 rep max attempts. I think the first one we got was 120, right? Or no, 125. Hold on, I got it right here.
Yes. Yeah, I think you were gonna go for like a 1 kilo, and then I said I said no, you have to go 125.
All right, so yeah, we got 125. Then we went to 130, and then we just jumped to 137, 300 pounds, or over 300 pounds. It's 301 and some change, just for funsies. And plus, it was looking like she could definitely get that, and she did. So Haley is now the second woman in Barbell Club history to back squat 300 pounds or more. I was trying to see if maybe Ashanya had back squatted 300 pounds in pound weights, which if she did, that means Haley would have the all-time record with the kilo equivalent with 301.
Yeah.
But Ashanya had back squatted 305 for 2. So Ashanya is still in the lead by a rep and by a couple pounds.
Yeah.
So Haley, I think the next time we do this, if Haley's having a similar type of day, if she back squats 140, that's 308 pounds. You've done it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that, or I need to send Ashanya a message. Hey, come on back, and we'll and build it back up. So Haley is definitely on track for the all-time record, but Ashanya is still in the lead with 305, just in terms of even one, but she got it for 2. So yes, very successful. It went well on the back squats. I think too, a big change, and we normally do this on like, hey, what are we working on today? What's our like intention? I think this is kind of maybe a little bit of a sign of success on having the intention or focus be listed for each individual movement instead of just at the front for like, what's your intention for the day, which it always used to end up being very snatch focused or very like one movement focused. Now, I think that the work that we've been doing on having, all right, Jennifer's always putting down posture now for her squats. And she made a comment on like, now when things don't go the way she wants, like it's always in her head and she's seeking that feeling of when her posture is locked in now. Haley's been working on foot position. You've been working on a variety of things, whether it be speed, tempo, being on the midfoot. So I feel like having everybody being so dialed in on what you're working on for each piece has also led to these PRs. Like, because some of these PRs, they've been way overdue. You've been way overdue for a front squat PR for quite some time. Haley's hasn't had a back squat PR in over a year at this point. So it's like there's got to be a change, not only physically, which you guys are always pretty good physically, but I think mentally as well. Do you think this is true? And do you feel that?
Yeah, agreed. I would say we now know more of what it feels like. Like if for me, like a lot of it has been just like starting with like sending my hips back a little bit more when I'm squatting, which has kind of been hand in hand with like my knee position, because I'm really just trying to stop or quell of some sort, like some knee pain. So now I know like, okay, I was squatting and I was sending my hips back a little bit more. That was good on my knees. My knees are kind of hurting right now while I'm squatting. Oh, I should send my hips back like I was doing before. Okay, that feels better. Or, okay, my weight in my foot, that also has to do with like sending my hips back or this or that. So as I focus on those things, I just know by feel how everything is moving and it feels a lot smoother. So, yeah, I think week by week, that's why I could also kind of tell that Friday was going to be the way it was going to be. Because even with doing all of those things, I was like, it's not moving kind of the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think having them there, writing them each time, and then also seeing what we wrote on previous weeks kinds of, it brings it back to your head.
Yeah.
Because there's sometimes where it's like you feel like you figured something out, and then a week goes by and you're like, what exactly was I
Yeah.
doing? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to, in the notes section of that sheet, write down what you put the week before. And these are, I think it's powerful. We've talked about this before. These are your words. These are your thoughts on your own movement, and becoming an intentional athlete and an intelligent athlete on what it is you need to do to be successful. I think this is the next step in it. Even on just being self-reliant, not being completely helpless. On like, let's say you go to a meet by yourself and you're missing lifts. Be like, wait a minute. All right, what do I normally think about? Like, just like understanding all these things. I think we're only 5 weeks in, about to start week 6, and it's already been a big benefit. And it was a benefit before when we just had the one focus, but like you said, having what you wrote before the previous week to remind you, and oftentimes you guys might write the same focus again. Several of you have had the same focus for some of those pieces every single week. It's the same. And that could just be because you don't want to think of anything new, or it could be because you're like, no, 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 this is what I feel is the main thing I need to improve upon. And the focus doesn't need to change week to week. And sometimes I'll add things, like I'll draw a little line and be like, all right, this is what you wrote last week. And I feel like you might pick something similar. But also, how about this? Like for Shaf, he's focusing on his core or his bracing. And then I might write over there, like, hey, how about that bar contact again? Like we've been kind of working on that.
Right.
Let's not forget that either, and that might help to funnel both of us down a certain path. So it's worked really, really well, and I'll be interested to see if we have a similar result when we go to max out positions. So a lot of you guys have been way overdue for a PR from the hips, knees. From the floor, we've been getting them. Some of you are due for PRs from the floor. Uh, you got to kind of run the gauntlet a little bit on going through all 3 days, but I'm wondering if we'll see something similar. I don't know. How do you feel going into this max out week?
Yeah, I think we talked about it before we've started, just the like going back to basics of it all.
Yeah.
We're very malleable as a team, I would say. Like if we get something within a cycle, there will be drastic changes by the end of the cycle on those movements. Like we talked about how we all got really good at the low hang, but the original kind of positions of like in mid thigh, we were good at those like kind of pseudo positions.
Yeah.
But knees and in hips were kind of like, knees have always been like tougher, I think, for most people. But like hips, I feel like for me and Shaf specifically, like those were our positions. Like those would like lead the way
Yeah.
way before any PRs in any other position. But then like kind of got lost. So I think even starting again with these positions, it was kind of tough for each person getting back into it. And thankfully we started light. But I think now again, the way that each person is moving at each position, I think it's been benefiting. Like I even if I go in not 100% on those max out days, I think that I'll be able to get a PR just because of like the position itself. I think I'm working well at them.
Yeah. And if for those who maybe don't get a PR, you're still going heavier than last week, which
Yeah.
keeps the progression, and you're still lifting high percentage and putting in on max effort. And it'll change the week after, because we're going to max out doubles, which that always sometimes leads into also finding a 1 rep
Right.
PR, because if you fail a double, that is above your old 1 rep. There you go. So it's kind of like doing them both. But then the next time we do it, it'll just be purely singles. So it's like, I don't know, they're two different animals. Like finding your 1 rep max while you were looking for a 2 rep max, it just happens, versus when we're just straight singles, leading up to the regional.
Yeah.
I don't know, is there any difference for you? And is one of them more high success probability than the other?
I think I've always been weird in that I think if I can do it for one, I can probably do it for two. But I think the jumps are different. That's what I
Yeah.
would say. Like the biggest thing is that the jumps will be different. I think you can kind of go a little bit more aggressive in maybe less sets when you're going for singles because in the energy that you're saving in hitting one rep each time, you can kind of take those bigger jumps.
Yeah.
But if
Like
you
I might
hit
take you 50, 60, 70,
right,
77, 83. Versus on the doubles, we're going to go maybe 50, 60, maybe a 65, 70, like
right.
those tighter jumps. Yeah.
And again, it's like one of those things where, I mean, I think most of us will do it for this, but I'm gonna hit doubles each time.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm not gonna move on. Like even if you do like a silly mess up, where you like miss the second rep because you like throw it behind you or something, like I'll probably have to pick up the bar again and go for a fresh double before moving on to the next weight just to like condition yourself. So I think, yeah, it'll probably just be smaller jumps going for these doubles, but yeah, I think it could honestly be same result.
Yeah. I think we're going to see some good things. This whole, it's not like it's experimental because we've been here before. Same movements, same type of weight progressions and stuff. But, like we started off very light at like, we'll say 70%, because for some of you, it wasn't 70%. It was more like 65% or 60%, just based off of what I knew you were going through at the moment. Right. Like I had this conversation with one of our newer athletes recently, and he was sending me data off of a calculator he got, and I'm like, well, I don't use a calculator. Like, I would never use a calculator to figure out Miguel's weights outside of like this max times this percentage, and then once it gives me that number, what is the reality around that number?
Right.
Like when
Yeah.
the calculator is like 82 kilos for this thing, and I'm like, not with how we've been feeling lately or how his knees doing. So it's like a calculator can never do that. AI or Chat GPT can never know those intricate details. So I don't even use a calculator that you put in your body weight and your best total and stuff. And it's like, here's the training program for this person. It's like, yeah, all right. How many of those sessions are they going to actually be able to complete?
Yeah.
So it was 70% was my starting point. But then based off of what I've knew of all of you guys from states to that point, all right, we've missed so many training sessions, or this is going on, or I know you're not eating food right now, or this, or you have work projects, etc. So I need to adjust that down and up. And then I've just been using the feedback you guys have been putting on the cards to be like, okay, Miguel wrote down fives for everything. Let's take a 4 or 5 kilo jump on this thing versus, all right, Haley put down a 2. You know what? Most of the times when you guys have been putting like a 2 or something, I just put the same weights as the week before. It didn't
Mhm.
even go up. Do better at this,
Yeah.
right? And that's the approach I've been taking with it, which before it maybe would have been a little more dogmatic on like, nope, we're doing 3 kilos every single time. And then like, but then when I think back on it, I'm like, well, you missed so many weights within that. So
Yeah.
if me taking Haley from 63 kilos to 66, because my plan was consistent 3 kilo jumps or 2 kilo jumps week to week, but she's missing the majority of her sets, wouldn't it be it's better training just to keep her at 63? And she gave a feedback of a 2. She missed 2 working sets, but now the week after she completes those working sets, gets all of them. That's better training. It didn't have to go up in weight,
Yeah.
because there's so many things that factor into what that weight was. You have so many weights that should be on paper easy weights that you're going to crush, but the paper doesn't factor into what's going on in your job. You're looking for an apartment, you're stressed, you didn't sleep well, all that stuff. So whatever that percentage was isn't really 80% that day. It's 98% that day.
Right.
So like you can't trust the calculator all the time, or the formula, or the app. This was some kind of an app that he was showing me, and I'm like, we can't use that because like who's that data based off of? Where did they find it? Like
Right.
like what formula are they using and what studies did they do to figure out that this will work for everybody? Which it probably will work for a lot of beginners. Like you can do whatever with beginners when they're first starting. Like we did for our back squat max out, 2 sets of 5, then a bunch of sets of 3. I think that for the majority of our intermediate athletes, you know, who have been doing this for a really long time, that'll work out well. Also, based off of knowing on like, well, Haley only has so many reps within her,
Hmm.
or it'd be better to have Jennifer saving some energy for those last efforts than because Jennifer might tend to lose energy and steam mid set. You know, like Jennifer may be able to do the whole volume, but once we get to rep 3, if had we saved energy earlier on, now we might be able to fight more for 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Or typically that 5th rep. But if I have someone, a beginner like Rebecca, Rebecca would have been a perfect example. If I would have been like, just do sets of 5 because you just need to train the back squat and get all the reps and volume in. And it's not going to make a difference whether you make it or not. There's also not that like that training history in the brain on whether you'll make it or not. When you have that internal struggle of like, all right, I got through the first 3 and now I'm going to have to find something deep within my soul to get these last 2 reps, and I know I can. The thing is, am I willing to do it today?
Yeah.
That thing's just not there on someone brand new who hasn't been through those battles and also lost them. Like I'm sure you've had many max out sessions where you weren't successful, but like you got better at it maybe because of the loss. Is that true?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it's all data that's just in your brain. Like you know how things feel, and yeah, a lot of the times it's funny because as we were saying the number of my front squat PR, I remember because the video where I took it off the rack and I said nope and I put it back, I think was 285. So that was like the next jump up. But yeah, I mean, there are times where it's like you just know, and other times you know how it's going to feel. In some days you know that I can dig there and I can get that. And other days you're like, I can't swing that today. I know what that's going to feel like, and that's not me today.
Yeah. But the spreadsheet or the calculator says that you can't.
Right.
That's the thing. It can never know. That's why you need a team, right? You need yourself. You need your coach. That's like the outside looking in, who's the one who's been seeing on your card every time that nutrition's a 1.5 every single day. Like it's like you can almost guess what's going to happen in 5 weeks on max out day, because unless that gets better. Or just the sleep and recovery, because all that stuff's compounding, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're just digging a bigger hole the less sleep you get and keep beating yourself up with all this training. So yeah, it's cool stuff. It'll be interesting to see what happens next week. I think for something like doubles, keeping it 2s across. I don't think we need to do anything fancy with like do 1s for this, you know.
No.
Although, I don't know. Maybe for some of you, I don't know. Definitely not for you, but
I think the grip will be a big point of it. So I would do doubles, just because if you're not prepared for that second rep the whole time, I think that'll be the toughest part.
And there's going to be expected, like the instance of missing is going to go up now. Like it's different missing on a front squat or a back squat versus like, all right, I missed that one, but I know I can still go up, or maybe I will hit it again. I know what adjustment I need to do. There's valuable info in those misses. So yeah, we'll do it. And then we'll reset the cycle, slightly heavier, but a little bit of reduction. And then we're going to go right up into the regional. And we're also doing this. It's February 9th. I guess we would still be doing this. There's no Arnold coming up. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Does that feel nice right now on like, yeah, I'm just going to keep training.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's another thing that we would have to think about that we don't have to think about. Like we're buying ourselves some time where we don't have to like, well, here's what we got and we have to use it soon.
Yeah.
We still have time to kind of like build. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be good. Regionals coming up. Weightlifting program's going well. That was our big focus. Just back to the roots. Try some different things on how we're approaching it week to week. These new cards and not having a meet on the schedule right away. And I think it's all going very well. And now if you take a vacation, you're gone for a couple days. Doesn't matter. Which shout out to Shaf, brought his shoes to Spain and he's getting those training sessions in. That's what you like to see. Like, you know how happy that did I tell you guys? Yeah, I think I told you guys that he sent me that text. When made me so happy when Shop sent me that text. Hey, I packed my shoes. Send me the programming. Hell yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, there are times for it. There are times not for it. Yeah,
yeah. I agree. There's times not for it, and there just we've been talking about these focuses. There's times where the focus is no focus. I told that to Haley and maybe a couple other people this past week. I'm like, write something down, but also maybe you're just back squatting today, you know, because that's also a focus. Like some days we don't need to write down like hips back or something. Some days you just need to go. So it's all good. It all works. It all makes me happy. Any other thoughts on the current training program or what we've been doing?
no, yeah, it seems we're chugging along. Yeah, that's really it.
Yeah, that's it. Um, I did my fencing lesson finally, and it was fun. It was different. Uh, I don't know if fencing is something I'll pursue, and
Mm,
that's not because it wasn't fun. It's just now I'm adding so many so many sports to the table. It's like I would like to get back to some of them eventually, and I kind of feel like the further I get away from the ones I've done in the beginning, that like I got to get back to those first, you
right.
know. And there's currently nothing else like on my mind or that I've thought about. I'm like, yeah, I should like see if this is a thing. I think now I'll just pursue them as they possibly come up. I'm like, oh, you can go do that. Okay, maybe I will try that. But it's just because of the Olympics, I had fencing on the brain.
Yeah, yeah,
Same thing as the other ones. There's like a sit down on like here's the implements and here's what we're going to use. Here's the what the anatomy of the implement is. Here's the safety aspects of it, and then you get right into stance and grip. Here's how you hold the saber. Here's how you set your feet, which it's like you have one foot like this, the other foot like that, perpendicular, front foot perpendicular, and then you
right.
move like this. Like you just kind of
Yeah, yeah,
shuffle back and forth. They put you on a line, so kind of similar to setting up like floor diagrams for the jerk. A lot of it reminded me of learning the jerk a
yeah.
little bit with the footwork, and you just it's like gymnasium lines, basketball lines, and you just shuffle up and down those, and then you learn what the course is, so to say, what's legal, what's not legal, and then you start putting on parts of the costume. So that was different too. You start with just the footwork, then you have the saber, and you learn the different guard positions. Then you put on the glove, and after you get the glove on and you do some drills, you do footwork drills with the saber, like just moving with it and holding guard, and then doing like it's essentially a lunge where like you would lean in to try to swipe
Right,
someone. Um, that was weird because like you're you you're hesitant to, or at least I was hesitant to lean really far forward because I'm also trying to be very defensive. So
right,
and like that's an offensive move. So like going from like training a lot of defensive moves to all of a sudden you have to like get in there. That was like weird committing to that. But eventually you put on the helmet and then you put on the jacket thing, which I have a picture of it that I'll post eventually. The helmet was weird, probably more so for me because I'm wearing glasses,
mm,
but it's like looking through a screen door.
yeah,
You know, like when you're a kid, you get all the way up to the screen door and like you see all the lines. That's what you're looking through.
right,
I think some fencers they have a clear plastic thing, but that was also interesting because it's like, all right, like now I'm looking through several layers and like you're just like it makes you dial in your focus in a weird way because like
yeah,
at first it was distracting and then it was like, oh, I see nothing else on the sides, like it you get a very cool tunnel vision while doing that. And then you just practice some at the end we actually did after I learned all the different ways to guard, she would stand in front of me and she would call out the number. Like, this is 3, this is 1, this is 5, you know. She would call them out and then to hit me, and I would have to be there. So she'd be
Yeah.
like 3, and I'd go here. She'd like 5, and I'd go up here. This is the coolest one though. Like, this is the
Mhm.
one you see in the movies where you hold your sword is up, you know, above your head like this, and they're coming down at you.
Yeah.
Like that one. That one, you're like, yeah, this is pretty badass right now. Like the other one, like this one, you're like, all right, I'm just blocking it off to the side, and this one was just blocking this arm from being hit. But this one felt cool. You're like, yeah, the Pirates of the Caribbean right in here,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and then you do like a match kind of. She would be standing over on her line, I'm standing on my line, and of course, like most other sports, there's line rules. If you go before the line too early, you get a penalty. If you retreat out of the course or to the sides of the course, you get penalties, stuff like that. There's all like the honor stuff. So like before your match, like you raise your sword to your opponent, you raise your sword to the ref, and you raise your sword to the scoring people, and then you put on your helmet, and then you fight and stuff. So it was cool. Uh, yeah. Leaving there, you're like, I fought someone with a sword today. That's not
Yeah.
a normal thing. And then when you're like out and about at other places, it's kind of like how when we talk about like, hey, when you're in Hanford, you're like the only person in here that can snatch over 200 pounds. Like
Mhm.
it's like a little weird thing that I was when I was out and about. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that has hit someone in the head with a sword today. Cool. Like
Yeah.
it's just a cool little thing like that. So I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. I could
Nice.
see doing it over and over.
Mhm.
Um, but I want to get back to maybe archery first, and I have to get back to handgun eventually because I have bullets and I don't want to have bullets for forever. I've got to get rid of them eventually, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. Do you think you would try fencing at all?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Which I keep saying fencing. I did saber. The way she explained it to me is like how you have track and field as
Right.
the overarching thing, and then you have javelin, hurdles, all these different events. Fencing is the overarching thing,
Yeah.
and then you have epi, which is a heavy sword with a
Mhm.
big guard around the hand,
Yep.
and it has a button tip, and you're going for body shots.
Yeah.
Then you have foil, which is a lightweight sword with a smaller guard, and that's also a button thing. And then you have saber, which is a rounded tip, and that's where you're going for slashing at the arms and the head, like
Yeah.
and also saber. There's no groin, like anything from the waist and above is fair game, except for the hands, so you can't go past the wrist.
Yeah.
Um, but in the other ones, epi and foil, you can go for groin shots too,
Mhm.
which is interesting. Um, so she said that the saber, that's what it came from like guys on horseback with swords, and in battle, like in a war, the reason it's waist and above is because you would never want to hit the horse.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was seen as not cool to hit the horse, because also the horse might be a spoil of war. If you kill the guy on top of a horse, you get the horse, and you also didn't want to be cruel to the animal. So you wouldn't go for a guy's legs. You would only go for
Yeah.
waist and above. Or if you're horse to horse, you'd fight like that. So it was cool, like learning that history as well. And like, you know, like the other two where you're going for body shots, that's like rich, noble men settling disputes. And you would, you know, eventually start to practice because you also didn't want to die during the
Yeah.
dispute. So now you have like a coach to teach you how to like parry and guard and do all that other stuff. And then there'd be rules, and there's a lot of honor stuff with the rules. Like, okay, if you're going to square off, you would raise your sword and just acknowledge, hey, we're both people here, and I'm sorry for what's about to happen. And then after that, you would go after it. It is cool learning stuff like that. And then it got me to thinking, the one, I guess, activity or sport that like you could never do these days like this would be like shooting at one another.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
like something that's like it's a very interesting and similar to fencing, but like you could never, like, of course you could never do that. Like you wouldn't have classes like lining up, like
Mhm.
here's the footwork, and like you take turns. Although there is like a take turns part of it on like who has the right of way. When the match starts and the referee says go, whoever starts advancing forward first, you have the right of way, which means if I hit you and I'm advancing first, I get the point. But if you hit me, you don't get a point,
Yeah.
because like this is like my point right now to try. Like you could still hit me and or guard or fend me off, but you don't get a point if you hit me or if we hit at the same time or anything like that. So yeah, Saber was pretty cool. And I definitely have more of appreciation for the sport. I think that's two of the things that I've been getting out of all this is having more of an appreciation and respect for the activity and seeing how other coaches in other things teach things and how are they similar to teaching weightlifting and CrossFit, you know, and the stance, grip, start position, always, of course, the foundation. And what I like about these other things is the respect for the activity on like, hey, you could hurt yourself or you could hurt someone else. So we need to do this the right way and we need to go slow and all this stuff. And that is like a tough thing in exercise because people assume they can exercise. So they don't respect the fact that they're kicking up into a handstand. And if they did this incorrectly, they could really hurt their neck or
Yeah.
hurt themselves badly. So you just see people take exercise and movement for granted. And I would like to instill that respect that, you know, in our activity that they have in these other activities. You know, I think that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, so that, yeah, that's it. That's my fencing report. Was a lot of fun. But actually, the more I think about it now, the more I want to do it again. So I just want, it's like hooking on a different way versus it's like archery and handgun. It's just you and the target, you
Yeah.
know. On this, once we actually got into it, I was like this is totally different. It's like you versus another person, and it's not like on tennis where they're gonna stay there. Like she would start coming after me, and I'd be like, ah, you know, I would
Yeah.
start shuffling back, and like you're trying to like block things, and there's more blocks. She only showed me three, like this one, and this one. I instinctively started to do this, turn my
Mhm.
sword down to block this one, and like this is apparently block number 8 or something. It is a
Mm.
block. Like so would want to learn more of those, you know.
Yeah.
So it was cool. I'll say it was cool. It had a different coolness factor than the other two because once you actually started to like face off, you're like, all right, this is way different, and it was fun in that regard. She did accidentally get me in the neck once when we were early on. We were doing like blocking drills, and I didn't block good enough. And she also went too hard on that drill. She's like, "Oh, I forgot we were just drilling for a second." Like
Yeah.
she had like a flashback to like one of her matches or something, and like it caught me like right through here. And I'm like, "All right, good. We have a dull sword." She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." It's like that's when I would bust out the catch-up packet and
Yeah.
freak someone out. I did notice that on some of the things like the vest or whatever, there was blood on them,
Hmm.
like old dry blood on some of them. So yeah, different sport,
Yeah.
very cool. So yeah, that's I don't know where my sporting activity takes me next, other than the Open. It's the Open, my swim meet, and then whatever happens next. Do you have anything booked on your schedule or calendar?
No, not at the moment.
Are you thinking about trying any of these that I've thrown out there?
Um, I don't know. Not at the moment. I still have like my schedule's kind of packed, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Because I still do dance every Tuesday and Thursday. So,
Yeah.
a lot of my free time is already the things I'm into. Uh,
So you're not
Eventually,
ditching dance. I thought you were.
I mean, I have paid for lessons that are
Oh,
still
okay,
going. So,
okay.
but yeah, maybe in the summer when things kind of free up and, more willing to go outside and venture off. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think we're both in the beginning of the year. You're just like looking for stuff and cramming stuff in,
yeah,
and those were the three big ones on my mind. And then now that they're done, it's like okay, now I would like to like casually revisit them as time allows.
yeah,
Um, but I'm not actively looking for anything new, and there's nothing else I can like. I can't like think of anything, you know.
right.
that would be different like this that I would want to try. So yeah, cool. We have a little bit of time left. If we're trying to stay on time here, we have this hitting the stimulus article. We don't need to read through it. I don't think. I
No.
think we can talk about it. What drew you to this article, hitting the stimulus?
I think kind of just a continuation of
I want to pull
last
it up
week
too.
where we sort of talked about one of the points was in the open, kind of getting a good workout versus, trying something.
Hmm.
Um, and just overall what that feels like. And actually it's funny because it comes up as a coach for me kind of more now because that's the first thing I write down after the workout is
Yeah,
like the expectations or like what the stimulus for the workout is. And we we've talked about it like other coaches, talking to Josh about it yesterday with his class that he did, but also like Cap kind of gives you their time.
yeah,
And then sometimes within those times, we kind of know our people and we kind of come up with our time. And then sometimes athletes have their own time based off
yeah,
of the time that we give them. So I've even heard like, oh yeah, when I give you guys the stimulus and I say it takes this amount of time to this amount of time, where some athletes go, yeah, I add a couple minutes to whatever time you guys say. And it's just the approach is kind of interesting from either end.
yeah. Which that approach is a little wild because that might not always work. You can't just you can't just add 3 minutes.
Right.
Um, Especially if we're trying to get things done and there's more to do in class or just finishing the class on time.
Yeah.
Like it's the athlete needs to do their job to scale within the original time period because you're also kind of changing the stimulus too.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it because and what I think it is it comes down to sometimes no matter what people want to do all the reps because that's what they view as being the most valuable. Do you think that's correct on like doing all the work is more valuable to them than reducing the work and getting the metabolic work?
I think also people count different pieces. I count my transitions in that total time. Like if you were to tell me 10 minutes, I go, all right, so if I did row 2 minutes for each time, how long will it take me to get off that rower and start like power cleans, let's say?
Yeah.
Realistically, can I, like, I know it's not immediate, so I can't start that other timer each time. And if it's 5 rounds, let's say it's 12 seconds on average each time. 12 seconds times five. We're adding in like another minute each time? So,
Yeah. And that's something
um,
to be said like um as coaches, we should be relaying that information, just like kind of how it says here in the article, like how does it feel? So it's like, hey, our workout today is 8 to 12 minutes. That's the time frame we're trying to finish it in. It should feel like a lung burner, but the weights should feel like they're so light that you won't have to put it down. We
yeah,
just had a lunge workout. I think it was last week where I wanted everybody to go unbroken, and it's like there should be no reason to put it down. Like it should feel light, and the reason it's going to feel hard is because of what you're feeling in your muscles. But it shouldn't feel hard because of how heavy it is. It's just of what you're feeling other places. So relaying how things should feel, and also how much time there should be between transition points is important too. We just did that wall ball workout. What was it on Friday? I'm drawing a blank. Wall balls
wall
and
balls and power cleans.
wall balls and power cleans. And everybody knew that like the power cleans were just going to be a break from the wall balls.
Yeah,
You know, so I explained to both my classes, hit your 3 power cleans, and then you're going to rest walk to the wall. And I demoed what that looked like and how I would do it. I would be walking to the wall ball at not a sprint. I'm not going to run over here. And I'm trying to take 3 or so breaths to get here. When I get here, I'm going to pick up the ball, breathe again, and then I'm going to commit to something big on the wall.
Yeah.
And hopefully I have a ball that allows me to do 15 reps in a row. And this is hard because I'm doing 15, not hard because 20 pounds is heavy for me. And I have to put it down and break it up into 8 and 7 or something like that. Getting people to understand that. And then when I'm done with the wall ball, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to rest walk back to the bar. And when I get there, I might take a big breath or put on a little bit of chalk and then put my hands on the bar and commit to singles or all 3 in a row there. And then it's just repeating that sequence like a robot, back and forth, back and forth. Nothing changes on that. And I try to hold that, and that'll keep me consistent on the transition. So explaining all that to athletes and having that baked into your explanation and lesson plan or the practice round, like, hey, when you hit these 3 cleans, here's how I want you to walk to the ball, breathe, and then go. Like, that's all part of it for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's not dangerous, but like dangerous for the lesson plan is that athlete that said they add a couple minutes. When we say the workout should be done in 8 to 12 minutes, we've already added in the extra minutes.
Yeah.
The 12 minutes is the slower end of things. You should be trying to get towards the middle, towards the beginning of it. What are your thoughts on that? When you hear, when I give a range, my expectation is I'm trying to get everybody to finish mid-range or earlier. Go faster, make it more intense. Do the wall balls unbroken. Stop resting so much. All these things. For you as a coach and you as an athlete, what do you feel about that? The range?
It depends. I think there are times where the beginning of that range. Yeah, because I mean, we've talked about it, how I kind of do it. And sometimes I start numbers with myself. So sometimes I hear a range and I'm like, I can't do it in that time. So I don't think anybody else can do it in that time.
Wow.
Unless they're like, yeah, you have to kind of gauge how everyone's going to choose to scale certain things and all of that. But yeah, sometimes I think the idea is that the beginning of the range isn't realistic for any of us. Speaking of the collective and speaking for the collective, let's say, I think that's
how you scaled it, though.
Right, but I think that's just the idea, right? Of like, you're telling us 8 minutes. I'm not a games athlete. I'm not going to hit 8 minutes. And even when we do, I think it is tough, and maybe that's something that I can work on like throughout the whole workout as well, as kind of getting a better understanding. Because within the whiteboard brief, I think it's kind of hard to like break down how it should feel specifically at each point, right? Because let's even use yesterday's workout. They had a 750-meter row, 5 rounds of it. And I was across the room, but 3 minutes was essentially what you would give everybody for each row. And that first row,
which seems on the generous side too.
But right.
But again, I know for myself though, that 750, when we get into round 3, that's when I'm over the 750,
right?
And I'm gonna go slower, or I might be trying to rest here or half-ass the row, because I know if I just keep moving, I'm gonna bank meters.
Yeah.
So I don't have to work hard to get to the 750, if that makes sense.
Right. So within the whiteboard brief, you're telling everyone, okay, if you row at a 3-minute pace per 750, that's 15 minutes of this, let's say 25-minute max workout. You still have to do other pieces, right? So people get that point.
Yeah.
But what 3 minutes means is different for each person, right? Where if I'm going 3 minutes, for me, I know like rowing isn't my favorite thing. It's not my strong suit. So I'm going to hit 3 minutes every time, because I know I can hit 3 minutes every time, and I'll just make up that time somewhere else. For other people, they go, okay, I'll have to go pretty aggressive to get 3 minutes. Let's say that they hit 3 minutes each time, but it takes them forever to get off that rower, and it takes them forever to get to the next implement.
Yeah.
So I think also like within that, all right, the row should take you this amount of time or this amount of time. It should also feel like this or that, and
Yeah. And if it takes you 3 minutes to do it, by the time you put down the handle, get off the rower, stand up, maybe you decide to grab a drink at that point, and then you walk over casually to your wall ball and stuff. It's now that chunk has taken 4 minutes and 5 seconds.
right,
Versus if I got off the rower at 3 and I stand up and I just buzz right over to my ball and pick it up. Well, now that's 3:15. You're almost a minute behind me in just the transition and the effort you were willing to put into between the pieces. You know what I mean?
right.
So it's like, of course, I'm going to finish faster. Um, I'm also, I don't know. I am getting a better workout.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends because I feel like people also have their strong suits.
There
That's
are
why,
some people though that refuse to go fast as well. So
yeah,
there,
I mean, yeah,
there are some people that like it doesn't matter the workout. Um, they may perceive doing all the work as the better workout, and you would need to bump them down from 10 burpees to 4 burpees to get them to go fast enough just cycling through. They
right,
just they only have one speed, but they're not going to want to do that because now they feel like they're not doing enough work. They also have to understand that each day should be different. It shouldn't be a 20-minute slow burn AMRAP every single time. And those are some of the most popular workouts because people perceive longer workouts as better workouts.
yeah,
And then, even though they're doing a longer workout, let's say it's Cindy, and you said, all right, the stimulus is 15 rounds. We want to try to scale to that. They may not want to scale the reps and then they get 7 rounds because so it's like, but then so it's like, what were you doing during that 20 minutes? Well, you did your 5 ring rows or you did 5 pull-ups, which you broke down to 2-2-1. So you're already spending a lot of time on the pull-up bar. Then you go down to the floor and you break up all the push-ups, and then you get up and it's casual air squats, and then you grab a drink and you wipe your score off. And that's totally different for you or Mike. You're going to hit 5 unbroken pull-ups, hit the floor, go into 10 push-ups, pop up 15 air squats. So even within that, the effort is just so different.
right. And yeah, so because of this, I know this is a discuss. We can probably continue this on next week even, but I've kind of been giving people hard caps, which I know we do anyway. Um, but I've been including like the time cap now for this workout. If we're going this many rounds, I'm doing the time cap is this, and I'm doing time cap for things like rowing, right? Where I'm like, we're hitting 400 meters. If at this time you're not there, I'm gonna say, okay, what number did we hit here? Okay, based on that, for these next few rounds, you're gonna hit this amount of meters every time because we don't
Yeah.
have time for you to kind of. And I don't know from doing the like athlete versus coaching kind of perspective of hitting the stimulus. I don't know if maybe giving people a time cap kind of forces them to now change the way that they think about it, because you can't add 2 minutes to the number that I say when I say I'm capping you.
Yeah.
Like
No.
I'm shutting off the music. We are done wherever you're at.
First question: have they been respecting that when you do that?
Oh yeah, in fact it makes it a couple weeks ago. What did I say? Um, I think I made the cap 20. No, it was like I think I was saying like 18 minutes, and Cap had given me a time of, I want to say like 10 to 12, and I told them, I think I told them like 12 to 14. and everyone was like at 12 minutes because I told them that there was a hard cap. And then I think people get like, oh, we have to go fast. And then people
Yeah.
go fast.
I think over time, as you get comfortable with it, you might want to start to change it to just telling people what to do.
Right.
Like if you know, let's say it's me. Use me as the example. I'm the person. I'm gonna no matter if you say 12 minutes, I'm adding 3 minutes, and I'm gonna pace and scale and plan to finish probably closer to 15 minutes because I'm also the guy who's gonna push the far end time cap, whatever. Right? Like you've got to be okay with being like, hey James, I want you to do 115 today instead of 135, and I
Yep.
want you to do 5 reps instead of 7 reps. I want you to do this instead of that. Um, I think the a time cap. It's not a bad tool. It is a tool. It's a way to do things. Especially if you have people who they just don't know, or they're new, or you're trying to keep them going and move them through things. Or I'll use like working for time as like a scaling, like say for Donna, right? Because all right, you don't need to be on the rower any longer than 2 minutes for this piece, and it keeps her on track and it lets her do consistent work, and she knows how she can push on that because every day is different and every distance is different. She's in her 80s, right? you
Right.
know, so I'm okay doing that there. Um, but there's also other people where you don't want to just have that be the default either, because then it takes out some of the coaching element to it.
Yeah.
If they always know, okay, because then you'll get people who they'll just be like, well, I'll do it RX then, and I just won't finish, or I'll just work until he tells me time, and then it'd be better just to tell them, hey, you're gonna do 15, 12, 9 today at these weights, and our goal is to finish within this time. And then you learn how to scale them, and they learn what they need to do eventually. Like it's hard to do that on day one with a brand new person,
Right.
right? Um, so you still scale them and have them do like close to something that's the beginner option on cap, because they are a beginner, and you're also not trying to have them do too much too soon. And hopefully you would have also used the warm up. It's like the whole thing, the warm up, the general warm up, the specific warm up, the practice round are all to find the end result on what each person needs to do, right? First, you're giving them the the sales pitch, the data. Hey, the workout should be between 8 and 12 minutes. Then during the warm up, the general warm up, you're seeing how they're moving for that day. Well, Miguel's looking a little sluggish today, but Rebecca's moving fast, and Bob is really receptive to coaching today and things like that. But Jenny's knee hurts, so you're like gathering all this data, and then you go into specific work warm up, and then you practice the skills and you see how they're moving. You're like, whoa, all right, Miguel's moving sluggish today, but his pull-ups are looking tight. He's really getting it today versus, Bob was looking good, but I don't know, it's just not a great grip day. And he told me he did a bunch of deadlifts the day before. So you kind of see how like we're slowly like gathering info and tailoring it to each person and understanding what they need to do. And then eventually we get to the build up, and then now we're adding weight to the thrusters, and you have them do the first set, and you're like, you know what, Bob, instead of taking a 10-pound jump, I want you to take a 5-pound jump. So he did 75, and you see that 75 is looking a little heavier than you wanted that first set to go, and the thruster weight for the day is 115. He wants to do 115, but you're like, I don't. You can see already it's not going to happen, right?
Right.
So and you also would explain what the weight should feel like. On that power clean wall ball workout, it's like this should be a weight for our first set that we're doing together. Remember, that was one of my coaching goals when we talked to the coaches meeting. I want to start doing the weight buildups as a group. We're doing this together, instead of like you got 8 minutes to build it up. So it's like, hey, this should feel like it should be a weight that you could do 10 reps in a row with, and this is your lightest weight of the day. We're doing 4 sets, and you could no doubt do this unbroken. And then we do that. Now this next weight should feel like this, and this should feel like a weight that all right, by the time you get to rep number 3, now you can start to feel the weight in your hands, or just giving them those things that we were talking about earlier. How should it feel as we're building up? But you're also looking, and then as you see, if you're not seeing what you want to see, you're like, hey, James, for this next what you took a 10-pound jump, you went 75 to 85. I want you to go 90 on this one. All right, go 90. And then the next one, go 95. Let's use 95 today. And then let's test this out for the practice round. Or Abby wanted to do in that workout 85, and that's typically one of her default weights, depending on what we're doing. And I was like, well, let's warm up to 95. Let's see how that feels, because I think you can do more. So this also goes the other way too, on not letting people do too little. And then she's like, well, I don't know if I'll be up towards the 15-minute mark of whatever that time frame was. I think it was 10 to 15 minutes. I was like, that's okay. I think it's okay for you to be up towards the 15-minute mark, which I think she finished in 14 something, and experienced this heavier weight today. And we also used a 14-pound ball. And the depth on the 14-pound ball was hit or miss here and there. But like, Abby's a good enough and experienced enough athlete where we need to experience those weights and those things every now and then instead of overscaling it too often.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of rambling. Sorry, a little bit. It's just maybe a longer explanation than it need to be. Does that make sense on how we're trying to use the whole class as a roadmap to figure out what everybody needs to do? And we haven't even done the practice round yet.
Yeah, for sure. For some people. Because reality is like you said, I mean, for some people it's not, they're just hitting, like not gaming it, but like they'll move well. And it's not even like, oh, because they want to go RX, they might go slower. Some people are just won't move with urgency.
Yeah.
Unless you make them move with urgency. So like you can even drop their weight, you can drop their meters, but they're still going to just look at the time. Like I'm a person where I look at the time and I'm going, okay, this is the time I'm going to hit. And I may slow down and speed up throughout the workout because I'm trying to hit a certain time. There are also people who will just look at the time and go, oh, I've got so much time. Like I don't need to, I can kind of just pace this entire thing.
There are definitely some anomalies out there that no matter how many times you say it in the class and practice all these things, they're still only going to hear the one thing they wanted to hear.
Right.
It's like Miguel said 8 to 12 minutes. Then he's like, remember, 8 to 12 minutes. All right, these double unders should be done in 40 seconds. Let's do a little practice here. They're still just not comprehend. They're not understanding the words that are coming out of your mouth. You know. Yeah. So I would scale them some more, and then maybe using that tactic for them versus the whole group as well. Like, hey, all right, I'm cutting you off at 12 minutes. I need you to move fast today. Versus telling the whole group that, and like, so start to see how many more people you can get doing it the other way on guiding them to the stimulus. And then your problem people, for lack of a better word. And you know, if you're listening to this and you don't like problem people and you take offense, maybe you are the problem people. So it's like that's always the thing, right? Like sometimes I'll say things and then like I have to remind myself, anyone that like would like be upset by that, maybe they are the person and they should. Does that make sense? They should learn from that. Because whenever I hear someone on a podcast say something, I never reply to myself on like, hey, like, because I'm not that person, right?
Right.
Like you're like, I didn't assume you were talking about James McDermott when you said that. But maybe just use it for those individual people, and then see if you can slowly start to use it less and less with them. Like instead of giving them a time cap for the whole workout, give them a time cap for like that one piece that you know might be the problem for them.
Yeah.
You know, hey, I need you to move on after 45 seconds on the jump rope. And you're just going to do this many. All right, they want to do double unders, but clearly they're not stringing enough. Or hey, just work for time. Like double unders is a great example. I think a lot of coaches use time caps for double unders more often than not, on like giving people that time. Like, hey, I want you to practice it for a minute.
Yeah.
You know. So maybe you do that for that example, or if you know they're going to be slow on the bike, hey, I need you to get off the bike at 2 minutes and 15 seconds, and then on the other stuff, just do whatever. But I'm going to make sure you're not going to get bottlenecked and held up here on this one thing. And in
Yeah.
the end, there's no ultimate right or wrong to any of it. I think use as many tools as possible. But definitely for you as a coach, you you don't want to let those people hold you back from making the progress as a coach that you would make if they would listen to you or you would just tell them what to do and it worked. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Because
I
then
think it's
because then they're holding you back, and you're defaulting to them versus them doing the class the way you said we were going to do class today. Yeah. Who's running the class here? Is it Miguel or is it James who's going to add 3 minutes and I'll finish the workout when I decide I'm going to finish the workout? And then you're trying to get a strategy to stop me to do that by giving me a time cap. I'll abide by the time cap. But now I've kind of I've funneled you into not being the best coach you could be. Um, there's that side of it. Does that make sense?
yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think it's always that though. I mean, I
No,
do
no,
think
it's not always that.
that
But
it
it
can
can be
be.
that. It can be that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm like tailoring it for the lower end, but yeah, I mean there's I find benefits in both. There are times where it's like, yeah, per athlete you kind of have to go, but I don't know. There can be success in kind of capping overall as well, because it kind of frames it differently. I think it kind of brings more of a sense of urgency to a number.
Yeah. 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 From time to time, like there'll be caps in the open, and typically there the cap is just you're just the reality of you're not fit enough and you're not going to be able to do all the work in the time that we're giving you. With the time caps, use them here and there where you feel like you need them, and then other times maybe challenge yourself to not use them. Make sure you're not using it in a situation where you look at the roster of who's signed up and you're like, shit, all right, today's the day I have to use a time cap. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
maybe that's the day that you have to go outside that comfort zone and challenge yourself to do it and think, okay, the time cap will work. What else can I do to reach these people to get it to work? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And maybe that's with test rounds. Like have like test rounds where, all right, the calories should be done in a minute, and you could give them the time cap in the workout to do calories, or in this practice round at the end of working on the bike, all right, 1 minute, you got to hit 15, and then you look around like, oh, Steve, you hit 9. All right, let's do 9 in the workout today, or let's do 7. Because the assumption is you're going to get a little more tired in the work. So like maybe you can start to build in time caps to more practicing things to show the reality of what's going to happen later on in the workout. You think that would work?
I mean, no, I mean that's definitely it's already built in. But people
Yeah.
are cheaters. Like people get well, I it's insane because I've never had somebody not hit. I think maybe running outside is the only time where potentially you'll get people coming in after, but they'll already
Uh-huh.
know because it's running outside. Anything on a machine, any reps of anything, people will always get well under the time that you're like, that is the cutoff time. And then as soon as the workout starts, it's a completely different pace.
Yeah. Well, maybe you just need to uh, maybe you need to have them do more than one practice round. Like maybe you need to have like start baking your lesson plan. Like, all right, if you see you got class that's got 5 quote cheaters in it, like you know what, we're gonna do 3 practice rounds, and I'm gonna figure out a way. How can I expose them or their game a little bit, and then make them do what I want them to do, so to say. But yeah, I do know what you're talking about. Like they'll do it. You'll say, all right, these calories should be done in 40 seconds. they'll get it done in 15 seconds, and then you'll never see that effort again
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
workout. Yeah, I get that. Hey, this is a cat and mouse game, So start thinking about how you can play the game, Miguel, where you always win, and win in the way that you want to win,
Right.
which means gets them the best workout possible. That isn't necessarily cutting them off, and they learn the hard lesson of they don't always get to finish the workout, because then that can also have negative effects too. Well, they never let me finish the workout. I always get cut off. I'm going to go to a gym and I'm just going to finish the workout or do it on my own during open. You know what I mean? Like it's a never ending battle.
Yeah.
It will drive you crazy. It sounds like it's already driving you crazy a little bit.
I mean, it's fine, but
yeah. It's good that you're thinking about it. So yeah, start thinking about how you can stack the cards in your favor. Like a perfect example is like Fran. Oh, all right, yeah. You'll all show me you can do 7 thrusters now, and then later on you're going to be like dying and half-assing and stuff. Hey, do 21 right now for the practice round. What? Yeah, do 21. You said you could do 21. Do 21 thrusters right now with 95. And then midway through, you're like, bump that down to 75, my friend. Like stack the cards in your favor, right?
Yeah.
And then that way, that's a perfect example I can think of people who will game or they figured out how to master the practice round, and then later on, that effort won't come. Well, we just said these thrusters should be done unbroken at the board during a skills practice. We did 21 with an empty barbell. Hey, load up that weight. Let's do 21 right now. You told me you could do 21. No problem. Well, are you lying to me? All right, well, let's find out. The times I've done that, the weight melts off the bar, Miguel. And then times are faster in Fran. So, yeah. Do you think that would be something you would do?
I mean,
or a strategy to implement? It's not going to work with every workout, right?
No, I mean, all these things, I've definitely already have used. Mm-hmm. It's just, I do think that people are viewing these things differently than the way that we are viewing them.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, there's it's kind of cat and mouse where you could tell them all this stuff. They can take the weights off the bar, but
yeah, there's so many
for
so many
each
factors.
Individual person as well, like to kind of get that all kind of congruent is something that is always changing.
You have the beginner that doesn't know, and they can get themselves in the weeds, especially if they're a pretty good athlete and they can like show off during the practice round or whatever, and then all of a sudden the reality of row number 3 kicks in and they're just tanking it. You've got someone like me. I've been doing this long enough. I know how to play this game and get what I want in the workout, even though you said what you wanted. Like I remember when I took your class a couple weeks ago, you're like, all right, I want you to row faster, whatever on this. And I was like, maybe,
Yeah.
And then, or I already know as soon as you turn around, I can sense it off the corner of my eye. Pace is slowing down now. He ain't looking at me, and not everyone's thinking about that, but like people do think like that. And I think like that, I'm like, well, I'm not going to work too hard now. We got the workout later, even though I know the value of what we're doing now. It's just, I don't want to. It's 10 a.m. on a Sunday and I'm tired, So it's just a funny thing, Funny thing. What else do we have in this article here? So they just talk about how to find the stimulus, right? Like, and you have to consider the loading, the timing, the volume, the movement patterns.
Yeah.
And are they contradictory movement patterns or complementary? Like we've got pull-ups and deadlifts. All right, that's going to be, we got grip and posterior chain, etc. versus thrusters and pull-ups. All right, 2 kind of different things. So that's typically that's what they're talking about in these next couple sections, right?
Yeah.
And then they went on to determine the math method. Do you use this method when you're trying to figure out the stimulus?
Yeah, they're essentially just, it's math. They're just going, how long does it take me to do a rep of this? How many times, how long does it take me to do 10 reps of this? It's, yeah.
Yeah, and then you can get your range from that. Like maybe you figured out, based off of yourself or what you would expect like a games athlete to do or something like that. And then you can add time to that. Like, okay, I would, like they say here, we would need 45 seconds to 90 seconds for 45 pull-ups. So you're already figuring out both ends of the range. Um, and you need to figure out both ends. And then you can even kind of either add to that based a little bit on your community or what you know, or at least in the lesson plan, a lot extra time just in case.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say the workout you figured out is 8 to 12 minutes. That's kind of the example I've been using this whole time. In your lesson plan for the workout, you would still allot 15 minutes for that workout when you divvy up your timeline, because you're just giving yourself a safe buffer. If everybody finishes around 10 minutes, cool, no problem. But if you do, let's say if you just mess up scaling people, or you get that person they're going to add 3 minutes to your 12 minutes, you've already factored it in. You're not going to blow your timeline now. So that's something to consider when you're making your lesson plans, is don't make it perfect for what the stimulus is. You still have to add a buffer before and after.
Yep.
And then I guess one other, this is talking about like 4 times, but like for the AMRAPs, something I've been trying to do is explain the math to people on if we're going to do 3 rounds of Cindy, that's 90 reps, right? And we'd want to get these 90 reps done in X amount of time. Or let's say we're going to do a 5-minute Cindy and we want 3 rounds. And that might be hard for some people to do that 90 reps in 5 minutes. What's another way I can get them to 90 reps, but have them cycle through the movements faster? Okay, well, maybe I'm going to have them do 8, 12, or 4, 8, 12 to reduce the reps a little bit. But if that helps them cycle through faster and they do 4 rounds of that, they're going to be above 90 reps, and they've accomplished the goal. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Versus having them stay with the 5, 10, 15, and they only get 2 rounds of it, but they could go faster with just slightly reduced reps. I've been doing that math with a lot of people, and I'm like, look, if our range is 4 to 6 rounds on this AMRAP, and you do the reps this way, so you're not going to have to break up the pull-ups and be stuck over there for too long, or get stuck on the push-ups, and you get 6 rounds of this, of doing 3, 6, 9, that'll equal the amount of reps we would have done. You've done the same amount of work, and you've also done it with more intensity, and you are moving a lot more from station to station. That's what I've been trying to get people to understand, and it's been working out. Have you done that kind of math with people to show them that you don't have to keep the reps on the board? Like, everyone looks at the stuff on the board as the gospel. I have to do those reps. I have to do that weight. And if they're ever going to break on something, it's always the weight. People always compromise on the weight because they're like, I can't swing a 70-pound kettlebell, so I have to use a 45. But they don't look at the reps the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I don't get as many AMRAPs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think especially like around Memorial Day time, because that's when you kind of get these things and you kind of figure out like you're going to be doing kind of more of these breakups. So it's a little bit easier around that time as well.
Yeah. That's just an interesting thing. People, unless the reps are crazy, they tend to, I guess there's like a hierarchy of what you respect, and people tend to respect the weight the most in most situations. When it's something that's like 225-pound snatches, I have no idea what I'm doing today. But I guess 225-pound deadlift, you might get more people like, oh, that's a little more in my wheelhouse. Maybe I should do that, even though I shouldn't ultimately. But then when it comes to the reps on the board, people are typically like, well, all right, that's how many reps I'm doing today. And they don't look at 100 reps the same way they would look at 225 pounds on the snatch. I'm like, oh, that's a lot for me, you know, versus like now, like when we did that workout and you were coaching and it was 100 air squats bookended, right? 200 air squats. I was like, no way. Like
Mhm.
that is not James right now. And I'm looking at 200 air squats the same way I would be looking at a heavy weight that would be unobtainable normally. Like if you said 315 snatch, never in my life have I been able to do that, or would I consider doing that in a Metcon, right? So I'm kind of looking at all things on an even playing field on like what's realistic on effort, time, safety, all these things. But I feel like a lot of people don't do that,
Right.
and the reps is one thing that kind of gets like looked at like differently, and sometimes distance. Uh, Distance is one of those things. I think I would put distance maybe before reps. On People would respect it more. Like if it said 5 miles, you get people be like, no, no.
Yeah.
But if it's a mile, people might be like, well, maybe, all right, it's going to take me 15 minutes, but I'll keep moving or I'll walk. It kind of depends.
Yeah.
Do you have any different ways that you look at some of these things, or do you kind of look at them as an even playing field?
Um, I don't know. I honestly, I think I put weight lower. Like I'd rather. I think it's easier for me to do the weight than scale the weight.
Hmm.
Maybe just change how I view other things. Like I'd rather scale the distance on a rower or our time on a bike than drop the weight. Like
Yeah.
I'll do that stuff first before dropping weight, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you can do most of the weights that pop up. Maybe something you would have to think about is, okay, I can do the weight. What about the reps on this weight? If
Yeah.
it was like do 10 at 225 clean and jerks, you know, which you could probably still do that. I don't think you'd be happy while you're doing it, but then you also have to consider the whole context of the WOD.
Yeah,
What else is
exactly.
paired with it. So maybe that's a day where you're like, I'm going to do 5 or 3 because I want to feel the weight. And that's kind of what we were doing a little bit on Friday with the wall ball workout. Hey, it's 165, 115. It's a weight we normally don't see. Totally okay if you want to feel the weight out today and just do 1 or 2 reps. But if so, we could manipulate the reps there, and then you're still going to get a good workout on the wall balls. Cool. Any I see now that we have been on for an hour and 47 minutes, and I see the error of doing when I do the share screen, I can't see the timer anymore. so, any other thoughts on this article, Miguel?
No, no. I guess
We missed the
yeah.
stimulus on the podcast. We went over.
Just I don't know, trying to get people different understanding of like stimulus maybe less focused on time and more focused on how I want you to feel at the end,
Mhm.
perhaps, is something that I need to kind of pivot a little bit more towards.
Yeah, and I would say maybe when you're writing your lesson plan, you have all these considerations. Think about for this particular workout, what do I feel is best? Is it the overall time or is it the feel? Because so maybe you can prioritize one of them. It's kind of like when you have like a progression or you're teaching a movement. Like, hey, I'm going to focus on this one thing. You can have that be for your for these components of classes too. You don't have to focus on all of them. Be like, all right, this workout I should definitely be focusing more on the effort. How do I want them to feel? Versus this other workout, it should be what are the time domains of the individual components versus how it's going to feel. Um, Trying to think of an example. I kind of feel like some of the shorter workouts, really, really fast workouts, it's harder to focus on the feel of it. And it's more to get it done as fast as we would want to get it done. It's more of the time component.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you should be moving on after 30 seconds on these burpees. All right, you're going to do 3 of them. You're going to do 5 of them, whatever. Versus another workout might be like, this is how you should feel after each round, or like the weight, which I'm blanking on a example for that. So yeah, ultimately we want all of it. We want to be greedy on all of it, though, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's your workout next week?
I have no clue.
Let me take a look real quick. I think it's already in there. It is the 16th already. Wow. The Open will be here in before we know it. You got a 1K bike and 21 sumo deadlift high pulls, 3 rounds. Okay. Well, I mean, it should feel light, right? Like it should feel like a lightweight that you're doing those sumo deadlift high pulls in 1 to 2 sets. But then there's also going to be a big technique thing on this too. There's also a thing on a sumo deadlift high pull. People can go heavier than they should, just because of the leverages of the movement, right? And then on the bike, there's definitely a time domain you want them to be on the bike, and RPMs for effort and stuff. So I think you could do both on this one.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you going to feel? There's only one way you're going to feel off the bike, right? I want you to feel like death when you get off the bike, maybe this is a day where you let them know, hey, you're going to feel your lungs a lot on this workout because the sumo dev high pulls are going to be so light and so fast, and you're also going to feel like you're always on the bike because I wouldn't expect 21 sumo dev high pulls to be longer than a minute, probably faster than that, right? 45 seconds or less. So it's going to be super light. You're going to feel your legs on them, right? You're gonna have to push to do high rep sumo dev high pulls once the bike starts to get more involved. I don't know. Can you think of anything else on this?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'll have to break it down.
Break it down.
Once I take a look at it, but yeah.
In terms of stimulus, if you did 777 on these sumo dev high pulls, like that's definitely not a movement you'd want to break up like that, right?
I guess not. I don't do sumo deadlift high pulls, so
yeah. At 95.65, like that should be a lightweight. Think about Fight Gone Bad. It's 75, so it's a little lighter, but like that's up down, up down, up down. Just super fast. If you were going to do 21 kettlebell swings, if you were thinking about it like at that, think about how fast you'd get back to that bike. This is a biking workout with a sumo dev high pull, short break in between. It was supposed to be running as well, so we have changed the workout. It's probably going to feel worse. But all right, cool. Any other thoughts on this hitting the stimulus?
No, guess not.
Okay, yeah, me neither. We'll keep doing those things. Make sure we're explaining transition and how that factors into the time, and also how things should feel. When we meet for our coaches meeting, we're going to go over those lesson plans and stuff so we can talk about this stuff with the group too. Have you done those workouts yet? Have you planned for them?
Yeah.
Cool. Maybe we'll program them once we have the lesson plan for them. Pop those on a Sunday. Did you do the judges course?
Not yet.
Okay, cool. Yeah, make sure you do that. And then in my next email to you guys, I took the advanced judges course, so I'll put the PDF thing in the email too. If you guys want to look through that. It was mostly about like working at events, less so of like counting reps and other stuff, like working at events, communicating, stuff like that. Still interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Miguel, where can people follow you?
Could it be Miguel on Instagram?
Could it be Miguel? Follow Albany Cross Barbell Club, Albany CrossFit, James A. McDermott, The Barbell Strikes Back. We have a new website for Albany CrossFit, so go to albanycrossfit.com, check that out. And Miguel is on the website now with this new bio, an awesome photo from Julie Rodriguez. So look at that. Everything's getting updated in the new year. Cool. Well, Miguel, thank you for coming on. And everybody, thank you for listening. And stream.